Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the YouTube channel grecochess, the channel of the game of chess. In this video, we'll try once again the puzzle rush of chess.com. If you've seen the previous video on that subject, we're able to make a record solving 50 correct puzzles before we had 3 puzzles wrong. Can we do anything better this time? Let's see. And I invite you as we go along. The moment that you see a puzzle on your screen, pause your video and try to solve it yourselves and see if your solution agrees with the correct and if it agrees with the way I've been thinking. And as we go along, I'm going to explain to you exactly how I'm thinking and what leads me to a particular solution, whether it's correct or wrong. And in the end comes the moment we have 3 puzzles wrong, the third one wrong. We're going to go through the 3 wrong puzzles and see what would have been the correct solution. And let's start again and let's first share the screen with you. And here we are. You're going to see the number 59 top score, and as I have mentioned in previous videos, this is not correct. There was a case when, due to an error, they were showing the same puzzles again and again and again, and of course, once I knew what was happening, I was able to have quite a lot of them correct, although it was the same puzzle again and again and again. In reality, my top score is a 50 we had last time, and let's see if we can pass it. And we're going to go with the survival mode. What does this mean? If you choose 3 minutes mode, then you stop when either you have 3 puzzles wrongs or when you stay for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, it's over, even if you've got all of them correct. Same thing with 5 minutes, but instead of 3 minutes, you have 5 minutes. But I keep it survival, so we have enough time to discuss through all of them in detail without being constrained by the time. Our only constraint is 3 puzzle wrongs and it is over. And let's start with the first puzzle. I'm going to hit the play button. And usually the first few ones are very easy. And this clearly is a one move checkmate. When your rook goes from c8 to c1, it is a back rank. Yes. The second, not exactly back rank, but once again a one move checkmate. Rook goes from b4 to b8, supported by the bishop on e5 and its mate. The rook at d7 does not allow the the black king to escape. The third one, here queen goes to f3 and the bishop on b6 blocks the square on g1. Next one, queen from d6 goes to h2 and it should be mate in one move. Next one, queen from d5 goes to f7, mate in one move. Next one, queen from e4 goes to h7, checkmate one move. Here, queen from, this is what's called the battery, because you have queen and bishop on the same diagonal. Queen from c6 goes to g2, supported by the bishop on b7, checkmate in one move. We finished, I think, until now, all 7 we had were checkmate in one move, and this is not checkmate in one move. No matter how white does, black can find some way to respond. But we win the white queen. The knight from f4 goes to e2 check and then wins the queen on g3. And let's see if this is a solution. I hope it is. Yes. Win the queen. Something is wrong with the pattern. Yes. Good. Now, this should be checkmate in 2 moves. Queen from f5 goes to f2 check, king goes to h1, and queen to g2 mate. Here, this is very tricky. Only as a white, the only thing on your favor is that the black king is very constrained. If king goes to from f1 to g1, the white king, what moves does black have? They only have one legal move. The pawn from e5 goes to e4, then the white pawn will take it, and Then the legal move of black is the pawn from f4 goes to f3. And then a pawn continues and a pawn is promoted while the white king can stop any black pawns. That's what I think is the correct move. I don't think there is anything else. Yes, win the pawn. Good. So we got 10 out of 10. Now let's see what is the next one. Black is checking us from h5. So we need to reply to the check, and I think there is only one move. The queen from e5 will take the black queen on h5 with a check. Let's see. I can't see of anything else to begin. Then we'll see if they want a second move. Nope, that's enough. Here, two move checkmate. The queen from h6 goes to h7 check, king to goes to f8, and queen to f7 mate. And we finish the first horizontal line. 12 out of 12. All of them correct. What do we do here? Queen goes from e7 to e1 check. Rook has to go back to f1. Then bishop goes from f8 to c5 check. King goes to h1 and queen takes a rook on f1 and it's mate. Three move checkmate. Okay, there is one intermediate. We'll grab the pawn. We'll grab the bishop. Second intermediate. Now we'll grab the rook. This should be one move checkmate. Rook goes from b8 to a8 and it's checkmate for black. Usually this is how you checkmate if you have king and rook versus king. Here also white has a rook, but this white rook can do nothing. Here, one move checkmate. Queen goes from f7 to h7 checkmate. Here, queen goes from h5 to h2 check. King goes from g1 to f1. Queen goes from h2 to h1 and should be checkmate. Let's see. This is a little bit uh, let's say tricky. A beginner may not see it. A more advanced player should be able to see it, assuming there is nothing better. Queen from c4 takes to e6, and white is a piece ahead. Black, of course, can use their queen from e7 to take to e6, but then the knight goes from f3 to g5, and it's a fork, and they get back the queen. What in black too, they cannot use the rook from f8 to take the white rook on f3 because then the queen from e6 takes the black queen on e7. Let's see if this is the answer. Yes, we got an extra piece. Here, if only black did not have the bishop on h3, it would be made, but too bad for them. What would happen if black moved the bishop from h3 and put it almost anywhere? For example, to g4. I think it is mate. What can black do? Uh, you have to be careful because usually the puzzles have only one answer. How can black stop the mate if the bishop on h3 disappears? And it can go to g4, f5, there is a check from the rook from d1, so we don't have too many choices. That is why there's only one solution here. Usually in these cases, when you have weakened the diagonal leading to your king, you're in trouble. So the white queen, if it goes from d1 to h5 check, not just trouble. Black has nothing to do. I think it's mate. Yes. Let's see what black and this is a case of king and rook versus king, while the white rook, bishop, and pawn can do nothing. Rook goes from h2 to h1, and it should be mate. Yes. Here you can see that the black king is constrained. They cannot go to h7. They have their pawn. They cannot go to g8 because of the white bishop. They can go to g7. So if the white queen can go to the long diagonal going from a1 to h8, it should be made. But they cannot go to e5 because of the black rook on e1. They can go to c3. And yes, black can temporarily stop it twice, but now it's made. Let's see what materially white has an extra rook. So black better have something very good. Otherwise, they'll be down and they'll lose the ante. If pawn from e5 takes on d4, still white has an extra exchange, but the queen from d6 threatens the queen on g3, but the king can go to f2. I think the next move is rook goes from e8 to e2. Black sacrifice the rook and wins the queen. Let's see if this is a thing. Yes, I can't see anything better. Rook from e8 goes to e2 check, and now they win the queen on g3. What can white do? You see the black king is in a very bad shape, even though they have a little bit more material than white, but the black pieces have not moved. If queen goes from f7 to f8, excuse me, to f7 to f6, it is check. Bishop has to go to e7, otherwise white bishop, if king goes to e8, bishop goes to f7, it's mate. After that, white can win the rook on h8 check, and bishop goes back and it's mate. Yes, we win the rook, and it would be mate. Here, there is only one answer for black that makes sense. If queen takes queen, yes, I'm going to lose a knight, but queen and king versus king is an easy solution. There is no stalemate, I hope. Yes. I think that is too easy to put it at that level. We finished the first 24. You see the first two rows, 24 out of 24. What can we do now? You see the white king is constrained, has nowhere to go. It's not in check, but black can check. If they place a knight from c6 going to d4, I think that should be made. One move made. What? Ah, here we are. Uh, because the two white rooks protect against mate on g1, but if the rook goes from g2 to h2, black sacrifices the rook, but then the queen goes to g2 and it's mate. What can I do? We finished 26, more than half of the previous record. White can check if he takes the pawn on f7. The problem for white is that the black pawn on e2 is very ready for promotion. If the queen takes on f7, the black king can go to. If they go to g5, queen f4, king h5, queen h4 mate. If they go to g4, queen goes to f4 check, king to h5, and queen to h4 mate. If they go to e5, queen to f4 mate. So no matter where black king goes, queen goes to f4. Yes, and h4 mate. Let's continue. If the black queen goes to g3, to b3, I'm sorry, what can white do? I think nothing. One move checkmate. Here, there is a pin. So the white queen can take on g6 because the f7 pawn is pinned through the bishop and cannot take back. And what can black do? I think it's one move checkmate. Oh, no. Okay, there was one response for black, but it's for, there will be another move checkmate. This is a tricky one. There's no mate, but there's material. And no matter how white replies, if black starts by taking the knight on f3, there'll be at least a piece ahead. And here, yes, a piece ahead. We got 30. How many more can we do? Here, if you see there is a battery, the black queen on h7 and the rook on h8. If queen goes to h3 check, king goes to h1, queen to h1 mate. I can't see of anything better. Yes. Here, oh, that's a tricky one. White needs to sacrifice the queen. Goes to h7 check, king takes it, no answer. Rook goes to h3 check, rook to h6, and the rook takes on h6 mate. Oh, that's a very tricky one. Queen from g4 goes to h3 check. Rook takes, there's no other answer for white, and then bishop from c8 takes on h3 the rook and its mate. It's always a huge decision when you decide to sacrifice your queen. Here, you only have one pass wrong, but in a real game, you may suddenly lose a game if your sacrifice doesn't work. Let's see here what white can do. They can either take the knight on c6 or the rook on a8 with a check. But is it mate? If they take the rook on a8, black can send the king on d7, they win an extra. But the problem is that if white stop checking, black has a check on c2. If you take first a knight, then they can take the rook on a8. I think first we take the knight. Yes. Now we take the rook. And now we take the bishop. And it's mate. 34. We passed it 2/3 of the previous record. Let's see how well can we do this time. If pawn for white has to sacrifice a pawn, goes to a4 check, king has to take it, or they can, if they take it, queen to b4 mate. If they don't take it, they can go to a5, queen b4 check, and queen to b5 mate. Yes, they didn't take it, queen goes to b4 check, and queen to b5 and it's mate. Here, if queen takes the pawn on h3, the black queen, king goes to, no, king can go nowhere to g1 because of the bishop on d4. Rook goes to h2, then queen goes to f1, and I think it's mate. What if bishop goes to, no, of course, if rook goes, yes, what, but what if bishop goes to h2, then queen goes to f1, bishop goes to g1, and then it's mate. Yes. Queen goes to f1, and now it's mate. Okay, 3 moves instead of 2. Let's see here what black can do. Materially, they have the same. Black can win the rook. Okay, no, can win the bishop on c4, but this is the best. White has a very dangerous attack. If white uses the queen to check from a3, let's see what black can do. We finished 36 out of 50. You see all the first 3 horizontal lines. They are all perfect. But we need more than that for the record. If queen goes to h3 check, black has quite a lot of replies. I don't see any follow-up. Still, they can win the bishop. Should they first take on a3 and then get the bishop? Or first get the bishop? What that white can do, they can send their pawn to h5 to g6. That's what I would do for white on the second attempt. No, they cannot take the bishop because the rook will take the queen. So first black needs to check, and now they win the bishop. Now what do we do? Because things started to become crazy. White is near checkmate. If I was black and didn't have too much time to think, I would use my f pawn to take on g6. First of all, I liberate my rook on f8. And second, there is no access to the h square. Of course, queen can go to h6, but then my rook can check from f2. I think that's what I would do. Yes, that's correct. We got finish 37. What do we do here? White is very near promotion. They had one more move. Pawn goes to g8. If pawn goes to b3, check. If can go where? To g2. Oh, this is very tricky. If the rook decides to go to d8, then the white will go to f8, so black cannot stop the white pawn. If the pawn goes to b3 check, if the king goes to b2 or b1, then the rook goes to d2, d1, and then they go to g, and they can stop the pawn. But what if the king goes to c1? Then the pawn can go to b2 check, and yes, even if it's captured, at least the rook can do a check and stop the pawn. Anything else? I don't see a mate for black, but I only see a way to stop the pawn. Let's see. Either rook goes to d2 and then to g2 and stops the pawn, but still white has quite a lot of pawns. Or that is defensively. Can they do anything? But if they go to d2 check, in fact, that's what they'll do either way or rather. Go to d2 and see how to continue. Now, here is the catch. If pawn goes to b2, black takes a rook and pawn goes to b1, promote, but then black promotes with a check. That's not what I would like. I would rather put my rook on g2 to stop the white pawn from promoting. Nope, wrong. Maybe they wanted the promotion. I think it's too dangerous. Let's check here what is the case. If the white knight from d4 goes to e6, they have a double attack. They attack both the queen on f4 and the bishop on d7. Let's see the material. Is it the same? White has an extra piece, but black can save the bishop by using the queen to check on e3. If rook checks from e1, white cannot easily win the bishop with this fork because black can reply with the fork on e3, and as white replies, and the king is in big danger, then they can save their bishop, send it anywhere. Rook goes to e1, check. Well, this puts black in a dilemma, not that crazy. Ah, yes, then the queen cannot go to e3 to check because the rook covers the square. I think rook goes to e1 check, and then knight goes to e6. Not so easy as that. If knight takes knight, bishop takes knight to the check. think next takes knight. Yes. And now how do we reply? The best reply is a discover check. And the only discover check is the knight goes on d4 to f2. No, wrong. Second wrong. 37 correct and 2 wrong. We'd better be careful now. We are near the end. If queen goes from d2 to d5, the threatened mate on f7. How can black stop it? The bishop can go to e6. Queen goes to g5 check. No, then rook goes to f7 check, and then queen takes there. Or is it better if rook takes on f7 check, king takes it, queen goes here check. Bishop cannot stop it. Rook takes, king takes. Queen takes pawn, king can go to f7 or g6. Yes, but if queen goes here, then black queen can go to e3 and start a counterattack. I'd rather have my rook go here, yes. Now second move, queen goes to d5 check. Of course, king cannot go to f8 or e7 because queen f7 mate. If he tries f7 or g6, queen goes to f7 check. I'll put my queen on d5 check. Yes. And now we have to be careful. Queen cannot go to here. Queen can go to f7 check. What is a follow-up? Any follow-up other than that? Because the bishop on c8 doesn't give too many options for white. Queen to f7. I can't see anything else. Here, how do we conclude? And be careful, if white does not check, black can easily check from e3 and game changes. Queen, where can the white queen check from? It can check from f4. And then no matter what black does, bishop checks from f7. Yes? Ooh la la, no, queen can check from f8. I can't see any other check for white queen. Yes, we got 38. Here, white queen under attack is nowhere to go. Of course, you can exchange queens. What if the bishop checks on g6? Rook takes it. That is a crazy one. We did 38 correct and 2 wrong. One more wrong and it's over. Of course, 38 is not a bad record, but score, but we are not making the record we wanted. Bishop on g6, rook takes. Not that many candidate moves. Either you exchange queens on h8, or bishop takes on g6, or queen takes on g6, or rook takes on e6. One of them should be the correct. Or maybe even queen can take from g7. No. queen can go nowhere to save itself. It would black can exchange queens. Oh la la, this will take some time to think the various options. None of them seems to be the most obvious. None of them seems obvious, but there's nothing else. If materially they are more or less exactly the same. If rook takes on e6, if the queen takes, rook takes on f6, and then we take the queen with the bishop. So we win material. But what if the rook takes? I would go for rook taking on e6 and cross my fingers. Yes, correct. We won the queen. Good. I'm not even sure why this is correct, but at least we got it. Here, what can we do? It's a tricky one. White has a pawn more advanced than black, so also black has the king stuck in the corner. If white goes to b6, they're going to win the pawn. If the pawn goes to a5, here's the trick. Actually, white must take with the king and not the pawn. You don't want the rook pawn. Yes, exactly here. Why with the king? Because you take the pawn, it's a rook pawn, it's a draw. And here king goes to b5. Yes, and now we have the opposition. We got 40 correct. We got two wrong, fortunately no third wrong yet, but let's see. If there was no knight on a3, the black knight would go from b4 to c2, fork will win the rook on e1, but that's not the case because the knight on a3 will take a knight on c2. What if the pawn on a4 takes on b3? Then the knight on a3 is needs defense. Yes, yeah, we're going now to sacrifice temporarily the exchange because now we're going to take the rook. And now we'll take the knight. Good. We got 41. Not record yet, but one of the nice scores we get. Here the problem is that we have a pawn near promotion. White has two rooks. If we exchange rooks, then we win the other rook. And I think even if the e-pawn is not promoted, no, it's not so easy. The pawn will get promoted. I think we have to take the pawn on g3. We either win a tempo and promote first or here. If we take the queen, yes, we exchange and we are a queen ahead. 42 correct. What else let's see what can we do. If rook goes to c1, they threaten both the queen on c2. The queen can save itself. There are ways to save. It can go, for example, to e2 or the knight can go to e2 to check. But once the queen is away, we check from c7 and it's a nice discover check. That's star would do. Rook to c1 and threaten the queen and threaten a wonderful check on c7. Wrong. So we got 42 correct. No new record, but 42 is not bad. Let's see the three we got wrong. Here. What did you do wrong with that? I think they want us to promote. We got this right. We got this right. And here, they wanted the king to move. Okay, yes, that would be a mate. Okay. The next one. Here. We checked first. Yes. And then after that. Oh, the bishop was ours to take. We didn't need to answer with this. The bishop of ours for the taking. We didn't see this. The pawn on c3 could have taken it. Now let's go to the last one. We take the knight and then we threaten the queen. Yes, it's even better. So, I'm not sure if it's okay. So this is the answer to this puzzle. We got 42 correct. If I think it is the third best score. We had 50 and 44 the previous days, the previous videos that is. And what next in the agenda? We're going to play the bots, and next time there is something very exciting. It's time for the advanced. We finished with the beginner, finished the intermediates, and now it's time for the advanced bots. And the first one is going to be Wendy from Canada. And Wendy, given the fact that Canada is a bilingual country, she greets us both in English and in French. Hello, bonjour, whatever, let's play. But that's for the next video. We'll have Wendy first. Wendy's rating, by the way, is 1500. This is the advanced board. I hope, well, I'm not sure if I hope or not, that Wendy plays as a 1500 player and not like the other boards. But that's for the next video. What else? For the grecochess, same story. We are just one game away from the end. And see if Barak 7, who is a point ahead, can get at least half of a point the last game to win, or if Maxim Govorucha will be able to tie the score with 5 points each. And let's see the other tournaments. The Moonlight Underwater, that is in round number 2. And with the Moonlights, we have the 4 groups of 7 in round number 2, with Maxim Govorucha in group 1 leading, and PGS 74 in group 2 leading. Group 3, we have a tie between Iraqi Lion and Chinan Fu. And Group 4, we have Lysithia Vanteres being quite ahead. But that's it for this video. Thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to the subscribers. We have new subscribers all the time. If you have not subscribed yet, please consider clicking this wonderful subscribe button and you'll be notified of the videos and you'll be part of a family. Thanks to the likes and the comments. By the way, if you've tried these puzzles, if you've stuck in them, if you've been able to do the ones we couldn't, you may want to leave a comment how you've been doing. And same thing, if you've decided to play against the bots, please tell us how you've been doing in the comments. We'll be glad to read them. Or if you have any games of yours that you would like us to highlight, you have already done so in the past, If you have any of your games that you would like us to present, we'll be glad to do so. Please leave a comment. This is grecochess. I am your host, Karilaos Aniziris, and for now, a wonderful goodbye.